This is Peugeot's brand new e-5008. It's huge. It's got 7 seats inside, a gigantic battery which should give it 660 kilometers range. And we're driving it from Denmark to Sweden. Let's see how it gets on. Is the launch of the e-5008, and we are getting to drive this exact car here from where we are at an airport in Denmark all the way over to Sweden. Gives a real sense of what this car is like to drive on the motorway, battery sizes, how that works out to range, the space inside and everything. Stick with us, we'll give you all the details on what this is like. Really looking forward to this one. We are just pulling out of the car park here at the airport, and Peugeot have set up the sat-nav for us in it, which is great, and it looks like a pretty nice system there. So the great thing is I'm not driving at the moment, so I get to show you all this. Now, as you can see on the screen just there, it's giving us an arrival time. It's saying that 51 kilometers is our first little part of the journey. And there you can hear the guidance coming in. Anyway, it's saying that we will have 86% battery on a 42-minute journey when we get there. There are 3 different versions of the e-5008, and I thought it was worthwhile just to let you know that we were driving the 73 kilowatt hour usable version. That's the smaller battery. There's a bigger one with just under 100 kilowatt hours. WLTP for the one that we had is about 500 kilometers. However, real world driving, you're going to get less than that. And we thought that on a trip like we were doing, we get in and around that 380 to 400 kilometers out of charge. The scenery was absolutely fantastic as we rose up from the man-made island in between Denmark and Sweden and across the famous Oresund bridge, that 16-kilometer stretch all the way between the two countries. What a great place to test out the e-5008. We've just arrived at our location right beside the beach here, and we can pull up some of the numbers. So the total is up to 1,211 kilometers. So I'll have to work that out on screen. Was it just over 52 kilometers? And the indicator range is still left at 444 and 87%. So the car estimated that we'd be on 86 when we got here, but we're actually on 87. And we lost a very similar range according to the guessometer as the car itself. And it is a warm day, just in case you were wondering. So we have, as you can see here, the AC set to 20.5, but it is 28 degrees outside and it's absolutely roasting. So we're pumping on that. But look, a really good journey so far. My colleague and friend Donald from RTE, one of the greats of the Irish motoring scene, he has been driving so far, so I'll get a better chance on the next trip to drive and give you more impressions about how that's been working out. But yeah, really comfortable so far. Okay, time to grab ourselves a little break and then hit the road again in an hour's time. We've already put up a couple of 100 kilometers on it, so we've caught a few flies, and I'm not surprised because it's got a big nose here. This is a big SUV, and there's a lot going on at the front here. A lot of grills that's closed in behind there, obviously, because it's fully electric. But what they talk about is this explosion radiating out from the Peugeot badge, and a little camera there at the front because it's got 360 vision around it. I like what they've done in terms of design here. These kind of bigger 7-seater SUVs can feel quite bulky and drawn out, but Peugeot have done a good job on design here. One of the things that they've done is they stretched out the wheelbase all the way down, so we're looking at 2.9 meters now. It's a tall car up there at 1.7 and overall stretches out to 4.8, which gives you really good space. Now, 19 or 20-inch rims are the option on this, depending on how you spec it. And there's another little thing that I want to draw your attention to down here. It's the overhang at the start, but this doesn't swoop up like you see in a lot of SUVs, and that's a really good thing because there's a lot of space tucked away inside just behind there. We're just kicking off the second stage now, and we are here. I've figured out how to say it. It's Strand Hitton, right beside the beach, and we are in the grey 5008. So got Donald behind the wheel. We drop in and have a look at the numbers now. So I'm happy to go, Donald, if you are. So we have, see it up on screen there, it's a really good system. So 92 kilometers to go. They're saying it's going to take an hour and 39 minutes. Now we should get there on 66%. As you can see over there, we've got 443 kilometers indicated range at 87%, and a total of 12:11 on the clock. So we will see how we get on once we get there. The temperatures are really warm. It's still up at 28 degrees. There's very little wind today, so we're not having to fight any of that. 28 degrees, and we have the aircon set to 19 now on automatic. Catch you later. We're just about to come into a 70 kilometer zone, carrying 35 where we are, and let's floor it up to 40, 50, 60, 70. And it's, I suppose you describe this as brisk. much more than sporty. That's not what you're buying a car like this anyway. If that's what you want, you go and get yourself the e-208 and head up the Wicklow Mountains. But still, it feels comfortable enough, solid enough and planted enough, and you can really feel that weight as it's taken off. There's a few different versions just to mention when we talk about power. So there's a smaller, if you get the smaller battery, the lower spec, you're getting a smaller motor as well. It's 157 kilowatts, 345 newton meters of torque. Now you can also buy the bigger battery, so that comes with the 98 kilowatt hour battery version, and you can get the 170 kilowatt motor. Now there is a dual motor version of this as well, and I'm not sure that that's worth it. So we're in the single one, the longer range battery here today. So what they do is they put another motor in the back. So you get that smaller 157 kilowatt motor in the front and add an 80 kilowatt motor in the back. And look, compared to the competition, that's not breathtaking. It's not going to be fast by any means. But what this car is going to be used for, which is hauling around 4 or 5 kids or putting a few friends in the back or filling this up with your shopping and luggage, that is absolutely plenty. I think with the day of this dawn of EVs, we're getting too obsessed with 0 to 100 times, and this car copes absolutely fine. One thing that you might want that dual motor version for is if you do live in a colder climate, you get a good bit of snow, having that all-wheel drive might just give you a little bit of traction in some conditions, and that could be of benefit to you. We have just arrived at our second stop, so we're munching up the miles today and really enjoying this trip so far. It feels really solid and planted, but let's just talk about the numbers here. I don't, once again, know the name of where we have stopped, at the Northern Exposure Design Centre, somewhere out in the Swedish countryside. There's nothing around here apart from where we are. It looks beautiful, but what we want to know about is the numbers. So we are up to 1303 on the clock, so that is, if my maths is right, 144 kilometers, is that right? I'll put it up on the screen if I'm wrong. But anyway, we're ticking over nicely, and we still have 67% of the battery, which is giving a range of 305 kilometers. But considering the fact that we've still got 28 degrees Celsius there, and we have that aircon set to 19, and we actually stopped for a couple of minutes where we left the aircon on in the car to get ourselves a little drink, I think this is doing really, really well. But yeah, it's time to get out now and have another little refreshment break, get a presentation from Peugeot on the technical details of the car, and then on to the third and final stop to the hotel tonight. At the back now, they've done a decent job in terms of designing this so that it doesn't look too bulky, because it keeps the height quite late into it. It doesn't sweep down in coupe style, and this brings it all the way back to give you that extra bit of space inside. But there's lots of clean lines to break it up. Little spoiler at the back, this stronger bar that comes around, Peugeot lettering on that little indentation there, short kind of overhang for the bumper, and then we're down into the end here, and that little overhang that I talked about in there to give us more space inside. And it's done quite a good job of keeping that sleekness for something that is so big. The boot on the Peugeot is 748 litres when you've got that third row of seats down. And we've got lots of different baggage in there. And what I really like is that flat floor that you can just slide things in and out. So that's great if you're getting heavier buggies and bags and things like that. And loads of space in there. I mean, 748 litres. And one of the other good things is the amount of space that they've taken advantage of around the wheel arches and at that overhang that I mentioned there, because you can lift up this little false floor, you can take that out if you want, and we've got loads more space underneath there. But that space, which is really, really impressive, actually extends right underneath. We can take out this bag just here under that third row, and there's another, look at this here, it's a whole shelf and parcel that is for your charging cables that slides underneath that third row of seats. And loads of different pulls here just to open up things. It's really flexible. There's that parcel shelf there that you can take in and out. Now, if we fold down the second row of seats, we go out to 1,815 litres. So this thing is ginormous. And maybe it's back to that. Oh, there we go. Not too bad. Internal space is obviously quite important for the passengers as well as just luggage in the back. You don't want to be cramped in that third row. And I find this quite good. Now, you are cocooned here a lot more than some of the competition. Maybe, you know, like even the ID Buzz, which just feels a little bit bigger inside because it is taller, in fairness. What Peugeot have gone for here is a more cocooned effect. So this center console just all along here, that really does, like there's no storage space underneath because this is based on a platform that will ultimately house combustion engines as well, the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid. And you do feel a little potentially enclosed for some people. Now, I don't mind that because it suggests a little bit more driving dynamics, but then again, we're in a big SUV here. But it does feel really comfortable, cozy, and the materials in here are lovely as well. And another thing that you're going to notice is the size of the steering wheel. This thing is absolutely tiny, but it's real good quality. It's shaped, it's cut off at the bottom and the top there. Plenty of buttons on it for your cruise control, your volume, speech recognition, and so on. But another thing that I want to draw your attention to is this gigantic curved 21-inch screen here, and it seems to be just floating. So you can run your hand underneath just there. It's really just attached to this little bar at the back. And we get that in the GT spec, but if you drop back down to the lower one, you don't get that as two separate screens. And then there's another one over here which has got some key shortcut buttons. It's not a screen per se, but what it does is it'll bring up other menus. So if you want to quickly access your navigation or your aircon or whatever it is, you can toggle around here. And I think it's done really, really well. There's okay to decent storage space in here, a couple of little cubby holes, a little smallish door bin, a little bit of storage in the center console, although it's not huge. And we do have good height here. For example, I'm 6'2" and I've plenty of height at all. I can't even get close to reaching the top. Let's see how that translates into the back. One thing that you might notice straight away is the size of this door. It's a really large aperture, which makes it really handy to get baby seats in and just to slide in as a passenger as well. No problem at all there. Now with the big battery underneath, it does lift up the height of the floor a little bit and you don't get full thigh support there, but that's almost standard on EVs these days. And there's great space. Look at that. That's set up for 6'2" at the front. I'm 6'2" here, 1.89 meters, and I've still got a bit of leg room. In terms of head height, even if I stretch up, I still can't touch the top. So it's done really, really well. But here's the thing, it's not just about this row of passengers. What you have to do as well is to get access into the third row. And that's a little party piece here. The whole thing just comes up like that, slides forward. And remember, as a 6'2" person, you just get in like this. As I unglamorously climb out, I can also slide that back and then, oh, goes forward as well. Yeah, and these things are all slidable, which is really, really good. But we had a little sit there in the back as well, and you can get two adults in. Now, you don't get as much space as you get in the driver's seat, of course, but it's still decent space in there with a good bit of head height as well. So you can carry around 7 people if you have to. And there's a huge amount of adaptability as these seats fold 40, 20, 40. We've got a central armrest there with the GT spec. We got the 2 cup holders, and there's a real nice sense of quality to these seats. A lot of recycled materials are used. We've got ISOFIX for the kids as well. They have that traditional Stellantis kind of group thing with the zip there, and then you get in access, but that looks okay. I don't have a baby seat with me, but I think I'd be absolutely fine there. And with that panoramic roof that stretches back, let me line it up for you, to just there, from just in front of the driver's head there, plenty of light coming in, and it feels that little bit more open and airy than you might think. Traditional Peugeot indicator there. But as we pull out in a little village here, the speed limit's a little bit lower. It's just a good chance to talk about the general feel for the car. Now, we've only been driving this for a few hours. There's a couple of people here in the car with us. I mean, it gives you a good sense, a good general sense. And a few things to note on it. I think that this screen, this 21-inch panoramic screen that we're getting across here, which you do get with the upper level, the GT spec, I think is such a massive step up for Peugeot, and then across the Stellantis group, presuming they do roll this out a little bit more. And it's just so much more modern. I have criticised when I've been in the e-5008 2008 and even a couple of the Citroen cars, I have criticised them for that. It felt like it was just that 5 or 10 years behind where the competition was, and they have, if not surpassed, I'm not sure that they have, but they've definitely caught up to where a lot of the competition is. It's quick, it's clear. There's a lot going on as well in terms of functionality. We've got shortcut buttons down here where we can access the media, the climate control, navigation, and so on. And we get the directions in French. My French isn't great, but we've got the map up there. We don't get a heads-up display, but that's okay because we've got plenty of screens just here, and they sit quite high up as well, so it's right in that eye level to give you your speed and directions. But otherwise, it has, in general, a nice feel in here. These materials... There we go again. A lot of recycled materials in this, but they've pulled it off well. It doesn't feel cheap or plasticky. It's quite a decent finish to it. Now we're in the GT spec, so yeah, I think it looks a little bit better. We had a nose around one of the lower specs already, and it still looks quite decent. Seats are comfortable. I don't get electric seats here. It's all manually adjustable, but yeah, that I'm not quite sure. I don't know the price for this yet, but I suspect that I'd be wanting it for the price tag they're going to put on it. One thing I want to mention, and it's a personal thing I absolutely love, and very few cars do it, is flappy paddles just here to control the regen. And you can set that to 3 different levels. We have it on 3. So as we come up to a roundabout just here, indicate I'll ease off 50, down to 40, down to 30, down to 20. And I just love having that adjustability, and we can set that in 3 different levels. Flappy paddles there, back to 1. So when you're out on an open road and you don't want that bite as you're coming up to corners, you can just leave it on level 1. And I really, really like that about this car. So we've just pulled into where our hotel is in a place called Aarhus in Sweden, and apologies to any Swedish viewers if I absolutely butchered the pronunciation of that, but I've done my best on it. So yeah, we have done 208 kilometers today. Let me swing the camera around and show you. So the odometer's up to 1,367, but the crucial number over here is 54% remaining. So it's guessing that we've got 223 kilometers range. But now what I did is 54%, how many kilometers we've done, and I've worked it out on the calculator here. So a theoretical range based on how we've been driving it today with that 208 kilometers is a total range of 452 kilometers. So overall, I think it's a decent showing in terms of efficiency. It's been a pleasure to drive, really, really comfortable. Sound insulation is very, very good. And yeah, overall the impressions are really, really good of this, and I'll get a lot more detail to you guys once I get my hands on this for a full week back home in Ireland, and we can give it a good run around what it's like to live with. We'll put the baby seats in the back and get a real good impression of it then. But yeah, so far, well done to Peugeot for putting on a great day, getting a really good feel for the car. So that's our look around the new e-5008, and what an iconic drive we did across that bridge that spans all the way from Denmark, joining the countries with Sweden. This machine is hugely impressive. Now, I did like the e-2008 and the e-3008, but for me this is a leap forward. It's designed more ground up with the electric age in mind than the previous ones. It's got great range. You're not going to crack the 660 out of it, but is it a solid 480, 500? I think it probably is. Really comfortable inside, nice finish. The tech has improved a lot. I've been critical of Peugeot and Citroën and so on in the past, but they really have sorted it. And that 21-inch cockpit is, I think, looks really, really well. So overall, this thing is hugely exciting. I can't wait to get my hands on it for a full week and really get into depth with it. But hopefully today you've got a good feel for how it drives, what it looks like, space inside. Please do subscribe to the channel if you can. Drop us a comment as well. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. What do you think it's like? What's the comparison that it's up against, the competition? There's a lot going on here, and it's great to get other people's thoughts. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.